And the idea and concept of putting a ballad together in memory of Byner is in itself a very perfect thing, and in many ways represents the folk life that she represented and actually lived. So it's very beautiful in that sense. And I wish to call now on one of her favourite sons, adopted sons, who's going to launch this for us tonight. Fear políocht agus fear gaeilge agus fear chórchumin. Could I give fáilte raibh Eamon ó Cuiv?
Agus mar a dúirt Michael be an trúige the Lily Jarmat Queen Bina Mc Loughlin. Now I met Byner the first time in 1974. I'd come down working in the co-op, and one of the jobs I was given was the job of organising the Leenane sheep show. And I always remember her coming over and giving a handsome donation to the sheep show in memory of her parents. And we kind of became friendly over the years. And I have to say that Byner very much enriched my life as she enriched so many people's lives. And I could keep you here all night telling yarns about Bina Mc Loughlin. Now, as it says on the tape here, or the CD I should probably call it now, she was very much into the sheep show, she was very much into Main. And she was very much a person of folklore and song and story. And she had a great turn of phrase. And I can remember a number of great incidents with Byner. The first thing was that Byner, when I became a politician, would ring me every Saturday morning with the list. And there was a list. And some of the things weren't easily done, I guarantee you. And she'd give out to me. There was no question about that. Of course, the biggest saga was the saga of our house. And you all know the old house on the hill, the original house, the family homestead. And she wanted the house done up. And the county council came out, looked at the house, condemned the house and said they'd give her a brand new council house. But Byner didn't want a new council house because she wouldn't own a new council house. And there was no way of persuading her to take the brand new house. She wanted the old house done up. So I managed to get a housing aid for the elderly and a central repairs grant. We even managed, under a 1926 Act, mar go raibh gaeilge Bina Mc Loughlin agus bhí sin annaí allowed. We even managed to get her a Gaeltacht grant. And we did a job that she was happy with on the old house. I'm not saying everybody else would have been happy with it, but she was happy with it, and that's what counted. But there were funny incidents on the way. She wrote to Carraig Flynn. Do you remember Carraig Flynn? He was a big tall guy down in County Mayo. When she wrote to Carraig Flynn, and Carraig Flynn wrote back and said he couldn't give her a grant. And she was not pleased with Carraig Flynn. And she told me that she put a curse on Carraig Flynn. And fair enough, very shortly after that there was a row between Charlie Hoy and Carraig Flynn. And Carraig Flynn got sacked. And I met Byner and she said, "There you are, Eamon, I put a curse on him." I was getting worried, I tell you. And I said to her, "Byner, it wasn't right to put a curse on poor old Carraig." "Well, you think so, Eamon?" And I said, "Yeah, I don't think it was right." "Well, you know what?" she says, "I lived it." And if you remember, a few months later, Sean Doherty and the tapes and the whole thing, out goes Charlie, and back comes Carraig Flynn. And I meet Byner again, and she said, "There you are, Eamon, I took the curse, and look where he is now." And like the stories went on. I remember one day, she was a great woman for the elections. And she'd go canvassing, and she used to go around with a big picture of me, if any of you remember, on her chest. And there's some great photographs of her canvassing And it was the greatest PR stunt. I think I'll do it at the next election. I'm looking for all of you to wear big pictures and make going around the place. But she got great crack out of it, and the bonfires were a big thing for the celebration. And she loved that. But I remember one day, we wanted to try and get the votes off the travelling community in Galway. And of course, Byner knew the travellers in Galway. So she said, I'll tell you what, she says, I'll go travelling, I'll go into Galway, she says, and I'll canvass the tinker, she said, because I'm a bit of a tinker myself. And when it came from her, it was no insult. And they really did love her. And she did go in and she really mixed with them very well, and some of them, I know a lot of them, and they're very decent people, so I won't hear a word against them. But we had great fun. But Bina, one thing I think about her, and I think most of you know, she was basically a very happy person. She loved singing, she loved the music, she loved the fun. She was very much involved the time the field came to Leenane. And I think the whole idea of film and stages and acting very much appealed to her. Of course, Midwest radio made her a household name. And I always remember the tape of her on the donkey, the peahen to the peacock. But I always remember the tape of her doing the interview with Tommy Martin. And somebody knocked at the door, and she was in the middle of the interview, and she said to Tommy, I have to go down and open the door. And you could hear something happening behind, and Tommy was on the telephone and on the programme, live radio, and he was kind of saying, I wonder when she'd come back, and about 5 minutes later she came back, she had her job done, and she continued the interview. Not too many people have the guts, particularly in politics, to do that with an interviewer, but I'm thinking of trying it on Tommy in the next few weeks. But she was just great fun. There was the day down in Leenane, the day she opened, Mary McAleese, I think it was it Mary Robinson opened? Mary Robinson. Mary Robinson came down to open the cultural centre in Leenane. And my parents were down because they knew Michael and Kathleen O'Toole very, very well, God rest them. And they were down there, and my mother was well dolled up for the day, and Byner comes over to the two of them, she knew them, and she says, you know what, she says to my mother, you're looking absolutely fantastic. And then she turns round to my father, she said, you want to keep an eye on that woman. The stories go on endlessly. Now Michal, you knew her very, very well, and you knew her through my main. But the amazing thing about Byner, there was a very serious side to Byner. And one thing she did is she controlled everything to the end. And I remember when she was in the hospital, I went in to see her in Merlin Park. So she demanded the fine off me, so we gave her the fine. But I was worried at the time that the doctors might discharge her, not realising how poor the housing conditions were that she was living in. And I called the nurse aside and I said, I want a word with you, because this woman can't be sent home, because you know the conditions would be too bad. So she said, I'll go and talk to the doctor, but there was the issue of, you know, discussing her condition with me, and on the other hand I felt I had to do something. But the next thing, the doctor comes out and he says, I can talk to you, she's named you as the next of kin. And he explained to me, unfortunately, and I hadn't realised she was so bad, and she died a week later, that unfortunately she'd never leave the hospital. But she had known that, because afterwards I wound up the executor of the will. And she had obviously known for months before that the heart was packing in and that she was dying, because she had made arrangements about help on the farm or whatever, and she had told nobody the full extent of all arrangements. As some of you know, she left me and my wife and the 4 kids the farm and the house. And there was no way, and she knew this. She'd always been saying, I'm going to tell you, which one do I like best? And I'd say Brian, my son. I'm going to leave him the farm. I said, we don't want a farm. Leaving the house the farm. No, we don't want it. And we didn't, and that was genuine. But Eventually, anyway, there was a bit of a sag behind it, but she did leave me and Anya and the 4 kids. But instead of leaving it to me or to one, she actually left it to the 6 of us. And there was one great thing about that. Because our kids were, the youngest was 18 and the oldest was 24, so they were all adults. And there was myself and Anya. And one thing I felt as a parent, and Anya felt the same thing, that it was great that our kids, when we sat down, we explained that we left all of this, that everyone within 5 minutes agreed that they were going to sign out of it and give it back because it wasn't theirs and it shouldn't have been theirs and it shouldn't have been left to them. And to me that was a nice thing, to be able to say that your own kids would just say, look, we did nothing to be entitled to that, let's give it back. But she definitely did it her way to the very end. In everything she did, and everything was planned, and she was determined in everything she did. But all I can say is why, I often wondered why she left it to me, because we used to argue. Every Saturday morning we had an argument. It was always arguing, everyone went, but she really liked me and I liked her too, and we got on fine. And part of the fun was the friendship, the camaraderie, the argument, the very fact that we could have these kind of debates, and as I said, you couldn't do everything she'd want, and she kind of knew that too. But it was the company, it was the friendships that I think really counted for Byner, and the togetherness of knowing each other and the fun that we had together. And I think that that was the great essence of her, knowing people, connecting with people, enjoying herself, and being part of everything that was going on, whether it was political, farming, or whatever it was. To me, that's what Byner was about. And if you ask me, why did she like me? I think actually that stemmed from a very interesting thing. And it was an interesting thing in terms of politics. Because sometimes the state or somebody up there decides what people want, whether they want it or not, and what's good for people. And the state would have said she should have got a new council house, but she didn't want a council house, because she wanted to do it her way. And I think the one thing she liked was that I always tried to do it her way. Even if to the outsider, her way wasn't the sensible way. If that's what she wanted, and it was legal and right, and her choice, I felt I should always try to do it her way. And it was a great learning curve, because there is a tendency in society for somebody else to know, for older people or whatever, what's best for them, rather than leaving people to live their life their way and support them in doing that with the best of conditions, but let them do it their way with their own freedoms and their own decisions. And it was one lesson I learned, and I've often said it in different fora politically. When you're dealing with people, you must take into account, as a central tenet, their choices, their right to choose, their right to make decisions about their own life. And I think it was that she actually liked about me, that I always, as I said, tried to do it her way. So she was absolutely huge in my life. But I think she was huge in this community in Leenane. And I'm always delighted that we managed to put up a memorial to her outside the farm, so that she'll be never forgotten. And I'd like to thank Michal for his huge support in doing that, because she had wanted to be buried on the land, and it was in her will, and we couldn't do that. But we did the next best thing. And one final coincidence, the day she was buried, I'll always remember, because it was 2001. In fact, I think it was February, was it?
It was, yeah.
And why do I remember? Well, you know how bad the mobile service is around the Leenane area. Yeah. And I was coming over the road between Griggins and Leenane, and the phone rang. And who came on the phone but Bertie Ahern the Taoiseach? And what did he want? He said, Eamon, he said, I want you to leave the Department of the Gaeltacht and go over to the Department of Agriculture as Minister of Rural Development. And that's a simple fact. And what was the chance that he was going to get me on the phone in that part of the road? So I said, I'll have to think about this. But he said, I have to know by lunchtime. Well, I said, I'm on my way to Bina Mc Loughlin's funeral, so you're going to have to wait until I'm ready. And I always remember just after the funeral, going into Michael O'Toole's phone house, because the mobile doesn't, well, it does now, but it didn't then work in Leenane. And I went into the house and I rang, and we sorted the deal, and I moved apartment. But I always say, I wonder was Byner working a transfer for me. And if she was, she did the job damn fast. So should have made it till the Ram, so Sulam, good night, her keen as she tapes for Michal. Nila Godum Salart for Michal. All I can say for Michal, another colourful friend of mine. And we've known each other even longer, because I first met you, I'd say, back in 1970. At that time, I didn't know anything about Malmane and about this part of the country. It was before I came down. And we've had a long association. And I just say very briefly, one of the reasons I like Michal, he's one of the best academics I know. I've been involved with work that he has done on sociology, where there are fantastic academic books that have been hugely useful to people like me. And on the other hand, he's one of the great human people I know, kindly people. He's a fantastic person. If there's a funeral, if there's a loss, a death, I think he's somebody that we all look to. I admire him for the fantastic work he's done in Malmane in keeping that alive. For so many things, the Western Rail Corridor, so many causes in the West here, for work he's done highlighting the decline of the West and so on. I could go on all night. And all I can say is I'm absolutely delighted that it fell to Michal to write this song. I congratulate, I've heard the tune, I've heard the music, and I congratulate the musicians that are on the CD. It's absolutely fantastic. But Michal, I think it's very, very fitting that you've now left the writing of books behind you and all this sociological stuff that's very hard to read at night and all the rest. And that you've taken the songwriting. I'm just wondering what's the next thing you're going to take to, but I'm absolutely delighted that you've done this. And I know that you have some ideas later on that you want to share with people about other ideas, because I've never seen Michal leave anything done. He finishes one thing, it's on to the next. So Michal, go to Mila Margaret, I'll show you is what he said. I think tonight we'll go for that.